I'm joined by Akash Thakkar. And Akash, thank you for being here. And what is your area of expertise? You have a very cool one.
Yeah, so I make music and sound effects for video games and also teach other people in the space how to break into the video game industry and make a good living doing it.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, everyone knows about video games. Video games are huge. And it's kind of like when you watch a movie and you see all the credits rolling and you're like, wow, I can't believe there are so many people involved in this project. It's the same thing with video games, isn't
Hmm.
it? And this is one of
Exactly.
those roles that you probably don't think about sound design, but is so important. Do you get
Yeah,
that?
totally. It's one of those hidden roles that once you realize, oh my God, so many people do this, it's a big world out there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so I assume that, and this is probably more true in the past, where you could do this through a big company or through a company, but you're on your own, aren't you?
Yeah, totally. I am 100% freelance and always have been. So I graduated from music school in 2012, and the kind of talk of the other video game related people there were saying, "Oh, what company are you going to work for?" That was the standard talk, and I was the only one who said, "What? Why would I do that? I just want to do it for myself." And it's been that way ever since I graduated in 2012. It's just been freelance the whole time.
Interesting. Gotcha. So, okay, so you went to, and it was the Berkeley School of Music in Boston where you
Yep,
went,
that's right.
correct? Right. So, great music school. And so you did have a lot of people. It sounds like most of your peers there were going the traditional path to a
Yeah.
company.
Exactly. Yeah, most were going to LA to work at big companies, like big video game companies, and that I still see that as a big goal for a lot of people. They're thinking like, "Oh, this is the only path for me. I got to get this job at the big company." I was the only one saying, "I don't think so. That doesn't suit me at all."
And so, was there any part of you when you were thinking about this that was saying, okay, well, I can go my own route, but I have to sell my services? Was that even top of mind for you?
It was top of mind basically as soon as I got into music school because at Berkeley, everyone was a prodigy except me. So that's a music school where this is not an exaggeration. There are literal 12-year-old students who can outplay everybody there. Like
Wow.
just insane, just off the charts. So I had to think, okay, I'm not the best person. I have no natural talent. I need something else. Like it can't just be being better than anyone else, which is kind of the goal everyone else was following. I didn't know what to do when it came to marketing myself or selling myself, but that was top of mind. That was something I was always thinking about.
And did you have growing up any kind of entrepreneurial experience? Were you one of these in the book? We talk about being a natural born entrepreneur, or what Gary Vaynerchuk, who we talk about in
Right.
the book, he calls himself a purebred
Right.
entrepreneur. Was there any of that with you whatsoever?
Literally none. Like I remember reading all those stories about Gary Vee and all these people who, when they're 4 years old, were like selling lemonade and stuff. I did none of that. I was just playing video games.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Same with me. I mean, he was, and look, and now we talk about this in the book. I'm envious of those skills and that experience that he gained doing that.
Mhm.
But when he was in his teens and he was selling baseball cards at the mall on the weekend, I was out on the field playing baseball games,
Right.
real games with my friends, which was fun. But now, who's laughing now?
Right.
Because he has this huge company. I play old man softball, and I'm trying to figure out how to market myself. So, okay, so no sales experience
No.
prior to graduating really from Berkeley.
Yeah, none at all. None at all.
Okay. So what was your impression of it? Like, what was there any kind of resistance to this idea of selling what you do?
Yeah, there was at first because the standard model that I think still exists today, people think that you have to be really pushy about it. You have to hand out the business cards and you have to really be hard on the sales and say like, no, you have to hire me. So that I was really worried about when it came to going into freelancing because I thought that's what I would have to be. And when I went to networking events, I saw the older people who were more established doing that, and they were getting some work here and there, but it seemed like a miserable existence. So I was definitely
Mm,
not wanting to go that route, but afraid that I might have had to.
got it, got it, got it. Okay, so then continue with the story then. So you made this work. You're not working for a video game
Right.
company now. So how did you make this thing work?
Yeah, so basically, when I was in school, like kind of the last 1.5-ish years, I realized, okay, this is a lot about who we know, what sorts of network you have, not necessarily just pure 100% raw skill. So I made an effort to talk to as many people as I humanly could within the video game scene, you know? And through that, I would start to realize, oh, they are saying all these issues with their game, all these problems that they're having, and none of them have to do with sound. They're always saying like, "Oh my God, I just hired someone and they disappeared," or "I just hired someone and we have no idea what they're saying or what tools they need, and it's not clear, and they're not doing a good job explaining." And I realized, okay, here's my in. I can explain better than them. I can show up better than the other people, and maybe not be as good, but here are my kind of ways of assuaging their fears of I'm not going to disappear like everyone else. That was kind of my first in of like, oh, don't worry about me. I live here. I'm not going to disappear. And that alone was enough for people to be like, oh my God, a freelancer who doesn't just disappear, please come in.
I love that. Yeah, I call it scoring the easy points where it's outside of your craft itself, which is so funny because you went to this top school where they really teach you to be a master of your craft. And the things that the key skills for success were completely outside of that.
Totally.
And I imagine that they didn't teach you these things in music
Not
school.
at all. Yeah, not at all. It was very much a just be as like the best you can, make a great demo reel, and have a great website. You know, those are the kind of main things. And I still to this day, I've been doing this for almost 12 years now, don't have a demo reel.
I'm sure some of your peers are like, how the heck did you get away with that? Amazing. Okay, so you had success then with freelancing. You at some point you said, "Oh, okay, I can make this thing work. I don't need to go work for a company." And then talk about then the motivation behind bridging that gap from client work, freelancing, to running online courses, running and selling online courses.
Yeah, so I realized in like 2015, 2016 that a lot of people were asking me, how are you doing it? You're freelancing. I like people who just were working in companies who then got laid off because that's inevitable. And they're starting to think, oh no, now I have to freelance. Please give me advice. So I was basically giving the same advice over and over and over to countless people through my email and just all that sort of stuff. And then I had a mentor at Berkeley who said this very offhandedly. One day he's like, make sure to start an email newsletter list. Just like so flippantly that nobody even listened to him. Like it was just an offhanded thing. And I thought, I should do that. That's probably a good idea to get these messages out to all these people. So I started building that. I had no intention to monetize. I had no idea for a course or anything. But I just started giving a lot of public speaking engagements in small conferences and small local events in the game industry, and basically started like passing around a clipboard where they can write their name and email. That's all it was for many, many years. That's how I got all my leads at first. And then eventually it came to the point where, you know, people were talking about online courses. That was becoming more of a thing. And I thought, why not at least give this a shot? I'll sell it for $67. It's super cheap. If 10 people buy it, I'm still happy. And basically started like that with no formal anything. I had no idea what I was doing.
Well, a couple things I want to point out there. So I love that the clipboard passed around at the conference. We talk about marketing channels in the book, which is what a lot of people think of when they think of marketing. They think Facebook, they think TikTok. And this, I mean, there are some unusual marketing channels out there. Skywriting is a marketing channel, right? And certainly passing around a clipboard at a conference and collecting email addresses. So the point of that is, it doesn't matter so much where you go. They're like, you can test multiple channels. Like, I don't think you're doing that anymore.
Yeah.
But it's something else that you said. You said, well, this can really help me get my message out there.
Yeah, exactly. And it made it easy to do so. I could just hit publish once and it would go out to, you know, at first 50 people. And that's all I needed at first, because those 50 people were the 50 people asking me questions.
Yes, and that's where that transition, that cycle, we talk about cycles in the book too, that cycle of transitioning from doing client work and more one-on-one stuff, the warm networking, what I would call more sales, you can grow a pretty good-sized business that way and without having to do any marketing whatsoever. But then this is where the smart person gets stuck, is when they want to take that next step, and because they're maxed out, can't take on any more clients, trading dollars for hours, the whole thing, and that's when they say, oh my gosh, I got to do marketing. And that's what marketing is. It's now reaching the masses. It's now hitting that button and reaching a bunch of people. But now, because you can't be at that conference where you have that warm connection with someone, you can shake their hand, you're just an email in their inbox or an ad on their Facebook feed, you really need to think about what we stress in the book, which is your core message. So talk a little bit about that and making that transition into online courses, and talk about some of the things that, because I know you've joined courses on how to sell courses and things like that. What are some of the things that you tried, and how did those things go for you?
Yeah, so at first, my core message actually kind of came from frustration and a bit of anger at the game industry because I saw a lot of the older guard who are very established and doing great giving really, really bad advice. They're saying things like, oh, just get an agent and everything will be fine. And to this room of 18-year-olds who don't live in LA. Like, what are you saying to these people? This is horrible advice. Or I remember this panel on freelancers, they went down the line and talked about how sick and tired they were. At the intro of the talk, they're like, oh, you know, if you want to do freelancing, you absolutely have to sacrifice your health. That was like the theme of the panel. And I was so frustrated with all this terrible advice that my core message at first was like, listen, you can do this without destroying yourself because that's what I'm doing. Just please follow me. You can be healthy. You can be happy. Don't have to destroy yourself like everyone else is doing. And over time, that actually started to evolve to that plus, hey, you can actually make a great living doing this because it turns out a lot of the things that we're doing that we think are right when it comes to, you know, selling ourselves or building a network or anything like that, we're actually holding ourselves back in a lot of ways. We're charging the wrong way. We're telling clients, oh, I'm the best sound person when they do not care at all. That's not the problem they have, like we talked about earlier. So it really evolved over time, but there was a lot of growing pains in the middle because at first I would send out random newsletters and emails of just things I was thinking about or ideas and topics. And some would get great responses and some would be absolute crickets, and I would never know which one is which. So it took a really long time of kind of circling that target to find out, like, okay, who am I actually talking to?
Yeah, and that one about the health, you know, we talk about belief building in the book and how you need to build these beliefs in the minds of your prospects for them to be even open to your offer and for them to fully value it and to value it properly. And so it sounds like one of the beliefs that you had to build in the mind of your prospect was you can do this without sacrificing your health.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's still something I have to remind people about. They're like when I kind of poke them again with that, they're like, oh, right, of course, I forgot because I was absolutely in that zone because everyone listening to this knows, I'm sure the tech industry has that reputation and rightfully so because if you're not careful, it will take that from you without you noticing.
Yeah, and that's a great place for the listeners of this to look for the beliefs that you need to build, which is to first ask the question, what are the myths in my market? And it sounds like that was a myth, that in order to succeed, I had to sacrifice my health. And not surprising why people believe that myth because you had these people up on this panel who were repeating it over and over again.
Exactly. And they're all on paper successful. But when it's funny, I followed up with them just to see where they were. I don't know any of them personally a couple years ago, and most have quit. The vast majority have completely quit because, of course, you can't sustain that.
Yeah. Too bad they didn't take your course. Well, and then it sounds like the other belief that you had to build too was that the quality of your sound design is not the most important thing.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a big one that I will be fighting forever because a lot of people think, you know, I have to be the best. You have to have some skill, of course. You can't go in completely beginner and expect the pro results, but there's a line that once you cross skill-wise has very diminishing returns in terms of people coming to you, income, that sort of thing. Not to say you shouldn't keep improving, but when you get to the point where you're like, okay, I have pro-level skills, I'm doing fine, it's not just about improving them because that lever gets harder and harder and harder to push, and the returns get more difficult to explain to your prospects because the people you're working with aren't, in this case, sound people. So they're not saying, oh, I just wish I had a better sound designer. I have never once heard a client say that, ever, in my whole career, is I wish this was a better sound designer. It's always something else.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who's hired a lot of contractors, graphic designers mainly, I can tell you that the things that you're saying and like just not being flaky and just being very professional and all that, far more important than being the best graphic designer out there.
Exactly. Yeah, and when I am like doing basic things that I thought were completely basic, like checking in with my clients every day or giving them task updates, things like that, they're so happy, even if the thing isn't even close to done or I'm behind or anything like that happens, they don't care. They're just like, oh, you're talking to me. I'm so happy. Please continue. They do not mind at all.
Yeah. Well, so, and then that becomes the claim that you make. Then we talk about the claim proof model in the book too. So the claim is the quality of your sound design is not the most important thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then a great way to then bring in your proof is to create what I call my 5 light bulbs framework, your light bulb 3, which is your unique approach or your signature system, because that's you saying, hey, these are the things that it takes. These are we call them keys to success. So can you talk a little bit about your light bulb 3, your unique approach, your game method?
Yeah. So I have this thing that I call the GAME method, GAME. And basically it stands for G, grow your skills. So you do need to grow your skills. We did talk about it not being the most important thing, but it still matters to an extent. A is attending and networking. You have to meet people. You have to be out there, because I give people the analogy of, if people are looking for cereal and you're not on the store shelf, they don't know that they can even buy you. And then M is mastering your mindset. So making sure that you're staying optimistic in the face of rejection, because that will happen when you're a freelancer. You do have to go through people saying like, we're going to pass, or, oh, you're too expensive, things like that. And then E, which is my favorite one, is earning a great income. So making it so that people know how to negotiate, know how to get a great income, know how to find the right clients, so they're not wasting their time with a million low paid ones. It's much easier to work with 2 higher paying ones, and how to find those people.
Yeah. So I hope to the listener of this that really comes through, that you can see that claim proof model there, because when you stick these flags in the ground, right, the game method. In the book we talk about this idea of selling, and by selling I mean like persuading, teaching, educating what's important. So you need to sell this idea of these other things being important in addition to, or even above, the quality of your sound design. And a great way to do that is to give it a name and say, hey, here are the 4 or 5 things that you need to be successful. So how has that then been? Like, and can you talk a little bit about that idea, teaching what's important versus just teaching your craft tutorials and things like that? Because I know that you found a difference between the two.
Yeah, the difference is huge, because a lot of people will go by, and I did too, by like view numbers and those sorts of things, the raw metrics. And when I did do tutorials, the numbers for my views and the like did increase, because that's what people are looking for. They're looking for software tutorials and all that. But I got no actual engagement. No one really emailed me, and those that did were asking basic tech support questions. It's like, where's this button? I don't want to respond to that email. No one does. And things like that. They were just very light, very surface level, and no one really wanted to get in any deeper with me. They didn't want to take any courses, nothing like that. But when I started doing what you mentioned earlier, things like making arguments or having things to actually stand for and things to say, it's not necessarily that I became 1 million subscribers on YouTube or something, but the engagement quality from each person went so much higher. I actually just sent out an email 4 hours ago using this, talking about, you and I, Billy, worked on this, called Game Audio Purgatory. And it's the most responses I've ever had from an email in years. In years. Just, my inbox is just exploding with, I'm sure I have more right now that are coming in.
Okay, this just went out?
Just went out, and people are going crazy for it, because I'm making a very clear kind of statement about the state that a lot of people are in the game industry. And I was actually very nervous to send it out, because it was very much me taking a stand, and a very counter stand to what a lot of people are saying.
Yeah. So that's the difference between posting free content about your topic versus doing what we recommend in the book, which is making an argument, taking a stand.
Yeah. And it's harder to make an argument at first, I noticed, because my emotions were like, what will they think? Is this, am I wrong to say this argument? But I realized that the response is so positive. It's insane. Like, people, and even if people disagree, they very well might. I know my argument isn't the sort of thing, it's not inflammatory or anything like that. So any disagreement is almost certainly going to be a disrespectful one. So I don't really mind.
Yeah, and I know what you mean about those feelings of, ooh, can I really say this? Should I really say this?
Yeah.
It reminds me of, I was just re-listening to the Hamilton soundtrack, and there's that scene where Hamilton's talking to Aaron Burr, and Burr, his position is, hey, don't rock the boat, don't speak up, play both sides, take this middle ground. And then Hamilton has this great line where he says, if you don't know what you'll stand for, how do you know what you'll die for?
Yeah. Totally.
Right. And so it's the same thing when it comes to marketing our businesses and our recommended way of doing things.
Yeah, exactly. It makes a huge difference. And it's actually easier to write that way, I noticed as well. It's easier to make videos. It's easier to write newsletters, that sort of thing. It may be more emotionally taxing because you're worried, but it's easier for the thing to come out because you know what you stand for, as opposed to yet another sound design tutorial that I don't actually care about.
Yeah. Yeah, yep, absolutely. So I love it. So you got the client work that's still rocking, and now you're growing the online course side of things.
Hmm.
So you see a lot of stuff out there. So you've had success with the online course thing, and you've also seen a lot of advice that's out there for other people on how to succeed with online courses
Hmm.
and with marketing in general, which we're
Yeah.
defining here as kind of beyond that warm networking, more sales mentality into broadcasting a message to a lot of people. Were there any other things that you've seen out there that you tried before, like different marketing tactics that just really flopped for you?
Yeah, I've tried all sorts, like how to build your list, and how to basically not go viral, but like have topics that people will like really want to click on, like basically lining up to clickbait but not quite there,
Right.
basically. And I tried that a little. I'll admit I didn't go super hard into it because it just felt icky. It felt really wrong. There's one thing that a friend of mine talk about who's also into marketing stuff, and we really don't like hype. We just
Right.
don't like nonsensical hype which is the train a lot of people kind of go down, especially in the YouTube sort of space and that big bold headlines, all caps, that sort of stuff. And I noticed just being someone who's more chill, I noticed that just not going down that path, even though I'm sure at short term it would grow my list and stuff like that, the quality of people who are on the list is so much higher because it's like, oh, these are the people I clearly actually want on my list. And you call it like list hygiene when you're sending out these messages and making this argument. People who don't want it will just unsubscribe. And that seems bad at first, but it's really a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, man, so what you were saying, if I understand it correctly, is that you were having success despite not being hypey.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And I'd say because I'm not hypey.
Yes, yes, which sounds similar to this the belief I'm trying to instill myself and Tiago through this book is that you can do exactly what you are doing, just like you were saying. Hey, like, you can keep your health and be a very healthy person and still do this kind of a business. You also can sell your online courses or market your thing without being hypey.
Yeah. Yeah, a great example is, I sent out that email this morning, and I didn't even mention my next online course, which is coming out in the summer. And someone said, these emails are why I can't wait for your next course. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't even mention it, but someone just said that 'cause they knew it was coming and they're already excited.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's something we noticed with when I was really in the trenches with Tiago, helping him grow, building a second brain, was that we wouldn't even mention the course, but it's this idea that if you're making your argument, if you're selling, you're not selling your product yet.
Hmm.
Again, and if you want to use five light bulb terms, you're selling your light bulb three, your recommended way of doing things, your recommended solution before selling your product and what's included and the modules and bonuses and all that stuff. But if you sell that argument first, your way of doing things, it just naturally sells the product whenever it becomes available. And actually, you've done that pre-selling where there's just very little to no sales resistance when it comes time to open the doors. I know you've experienced that when you've launched this course in the past.
Yeah, exactly. Literally because of you. When I last opened this course, I believe it's 2021 or 22. I was on vacation, and I opened the kind of course launch, the doors for people to sign up, and I built up kind of when it's coming out and what it's about and what I'm standing for, basically the whole five light bulbs. And I was thinking like, okay, I'm sure it's the first day, just chill. It's okay if it only sells one or two. It always sells more later on. It's okay. Like basically telling myself to calm down from how nervous I was whenever I opened that cart. And within 24 hours, it was sold out. So I basically woke up to just a list of people signing up in my inbox, thinking like, oh my God. So while I was on vacation, with no engagement from me because it's all set up beforehand, it was totally sold out.
Incredible. Yeah, I remember you telling me you're like, yeah, I'm going to go on vacation. I'm also opening my cart on my launch on the same day. I'm like, what? But it worked. And so how important was that pre-work that you did when it came time to open the doors?
Yeah, it was everything. Like that pre-work was literally the work, because everyone knew what it was about. No one had any real burning questions when the doors opened. And basically, as soon as the doors opened, people just knew exactly who it was for and who it wasn't for and jumped right in. And that was that. It was very nice. And when I would talk to students, doing the live sort of thing like you do, no one seemed out of place. Everyone was there for the right reasons.
Well, and that's the great thing about that list hygiene, right? Because although it can hurt to hit send on that and to see those unsubscribes, you're pruning the bonsai tree, right? You're pruning the brown leaves off, so that when it comes time, everyone's on board. They know what your methodology is. They know what you stand for, and they're saying, okay, just let me in. They're asking you, right? They're saying like, will you please let me in? Instead of
Yeah.
you asking them, will you come in?
Exactly. Yeah, people are like I said, this course won't even launch till August, and people are already asking about the next course.
All right, so this has been an awesome interview, Akash. And so finally, I want to ask you, what's the message that you have for the smart person who, and let's say because you're an artist, you're a creative type, and we all know that creative types and sales and marketing, they go together like oil and water, and they really don't mix. So let's say that there's an artist or a creative who's listening to this, who's getting results for their clients or customers, and they want to grow what they're doing and reach more people, but they have one foot on the gas pedal and one on the brake pedal because this thing called marketing. What do you say to that person?
Yeah, so I was like that at first. I was worried about marketing. It seemed kind of too slick, too salesy, too gross for me to ever do. Like, can't they just like me for my work? I had all the same kind of mindsets that every artist has when they're in that zone. And if you'll follow me on a very strange analogy, it's that oil and water, like you said, don't mix. But I was reading about cooking lately because I've been getting more and more into it. And I was wondering, like, why do people cook with alcohol? And the reason is because the chemical structure of alcohol forces oil and water to mix together, and that's what gets the flavors to actually meld. And so we need to find basically our equivalent. I'm not saying everyone to go drink and go crazy. Please don't take this literally. But
I'm
we
a
need to
beer
find
brewer. I love this analogy.
Right, exactly. You're a beer brewer, so you get it. But basically, we need to find our equivalent of that kind of chemical structure that makes it all blend together. And that's usually something that suits our personality very personally. So an example is that my newsletters, as just a quick case study, is I always start my newsletters, or I often start my newsletters, with a really stupid historical fact that has absolutely nothing to do with the thing I'm about to talk about. So I could be talking about the duck fashion show in Melbourne, Australia that happens every single year that hundreds of thousands of people go to watch ducks prance around. And we'll tie it to sound design in some way, shape, and form. And that's my kind of silliness that I really like that will tie into this sort of marketing. There's no marketing class in the world that you'll go to that will tell you to do that, but it suits me and it suits the people that I'm going with. So finding that equivalent, the thing that you like, no matter how silly or you think it's just for you, it is, other people will be like, oh my God, no one said it like this. I really want to follow you.
Yeah. So a lot of people, I love that because a lot of people think that in order to do marketing, they think I need to become someone else. I need to be one of those slick marketers. And what you're saying is so true that you can do it in an authentic way. And that's really been the theme of this call is that is actually the way to do it if you want to have success.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Akash. And how can people connect with you if they want?
Yeah, so if you want to find me, you can just go to akashthakkar.com, or if you just want to Google me and just see all my stuff really easily, just type in Akash and game audio into Google and I'll pop up. There's not many people with my name doing this.
But don't expect to find a demo reel.
Right, there's none.
Awesome. Thanks, Akash. Really appreciate it. And we'll talk soon.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Bye.